Joining in the tribute there. Each Veterans Day, the United States honors the service and sacrifice of over 20 million American veterans who throughout the years have guaranteed our freedom and kept America safe and kept America secure. The Department of Justice is really honored to be able to annually commemorate the service and the leadership of all veterans. Veterans play a vital role here at the Department, helping us fulfill our broad mission. The training and education that veterans receive during their military service is directly transferable to the types of work we do here at the Department of Justice, particularly our law enforcement jobs. It's a real win-win for the Department of Justice to have talented people like you on our workforce. I really am pleased that everyone could come out today. Not only is this a terrific event for us, it's especially nice this year because it's the centennial of the World War I armistice. So thank you for all your service, and let me move along to our main speakers this afternoon. It's really my honor to introduce our Acting Attorney General, Matthew Whitaker. Prior to becoming the Acting Attorney General, Mr. Whitaker served as the Chief of Staff to Attorney General Jeff Sessions, and earlier he was the United States Attorney for the Southern District of Iowa under President George Bush. He's been in private practice, and since I have worked with Matt for the last year, I can tell you he's got an MBA, he's a spot-on budget guy for all the budget work we do, and he's just a tremendous advocate for the Department of Justice. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Matt Whitaker.
Thank you, Lee. I appreciate it. I've enjoyed working with you over the last more than a year on some of the more interesting issues that the Department of Justice faces, like budgets and human resource issues and the kind of stuff that keeps us deployed and doing our job every day, protecting Americans and saving lives that our heroes do. You've been here 36 years in the Department of Justice, and you've been our AAG for 12 years. I'm really proud of your service, and I also want to thank the Joint Armed Services Color Guard for the presentation of the colors, and Jaral Wilson Takahashi. That was a beautiful rendition of our national anthem. Thank you. Thank you for being here for our 8th annual Veterans Appreciation Day at the Department of Justice. And above all, thank you to all our veterans here in the Great Hall today joining us for this important honor and celebration. Thank you for your service in the armed forces, and thank you for your service to the Department of Justice. And this Department of Justice, at this Department of Justice, we recognize that public safety is government's first and highest priority. The men and women of the armed forces, the Army, the Navy, the Marines, the Air Force, the Coast Guard, risk their lives for that mission every day, and each of us owes a debt of gratitude. This department also works for public safety by enforcing our laws, but we know that our work depends upon the bravery and sacrifice of the members of the armed services. We are proud of each one of the 27,000 veterans who serve in the Department of Justice. Your skills, your patriotism, and above all, your selfless character make you the kind of employees that any employer wants, and we are so glad to have you. You have continued to choose your service. You've continued your service by choosing to serve here at the Department of Justice, and I commend you for that, and I am deeply humbled and honored to serve alongside with you all. We are well aware of the heroes that walk the halls of Main Justice and across the world serving the Department of Justice. Outside of my office is a memorial to the names of our former colleagues who during World War II made the ultimate sacrifice to the defense of a grateful country. I also know firsthand of the heroes we have in the department because I am now literally surrounded by them each and every day. Most of the FBI agents on my security detail, the Attorney General's security detail, are veterans. That includes Special Agent Damon Flores, who is a former Navy rescue swimmer in the Mediterranean and in the Persian Gulf. After his service in the Navy, he went to college on the GI Bill and got an accounting and finance degree. He quickly realized that accounting was not as exciting as being a rescue swimmer, surprisingly. He wanted a little more adventure, and so he signed up for the FBI. He marked his 14th anniversary with the FBI yesterday. Damon, congratulations. Another example of someone we're proud of is Mara Quinn of DEA. Mara graduated from the Naval Academy, and then in flight school, she chose to fly helicopters so she could pilot a combat aircraft. After graduation, she deployed twice, first in a carrier battle group to the Indian Ocean, and then in support of Operation Desert Shield. She served as an instructor pilot for 2 years and went to law school at night. As if she weren't busy enough, she gave birth to 2 children before graduation from law school. After law school, she joins the U.S. Attorney's Office in the Southern District of California, and then the FBI's Office of General Counsel. She then served for 8 years in the Chief Counsel's Office at the DEA. Over that time, she became an expert in technology law, and today she serves as DEA's Deputy Assistant Administrator for Information Services. Mara, thank you so much for your service. I could literally go on and on for the other 26,998 veterans and members of the armed services that are examples of what is the best about the Department of Justice. But this is the caliber of people that we are so grateful to have at the Department of Justice. Through our Veterans Employment Office in the Justice Management Division, we have made hiring veterans a priority and help them make the transition into careers with the department. We want more exemplary employees like Damon, like Mara, and like the 26,998 other veterans that work here at the department alongside us. We will continue to invest in our heroes because you're a good investment. You are, in the words of General John Kelly, the very best this country produces. Now I have the honor of introducing someone who knows that as well as anyone. Our keynote speaker is the Director of Military Force Management Policy for the United States Air Force, Major General Robert LaBruta. You might think of him as the Air Force's head of human resources, kind of like I think of Lee as our head of all the things. Major General LaBruta has served in the Air Force for the last 37 years. Today, he is responsible for setting force management policy that affects more than 500,000 Air Force personnel. Issues like assignments, evaluation, readiness, and transitioning back into civilian life. And I saw we had several members of the Air Force family here with us today. Before this assignment, he served as a commander of the 2nd Air Force at Keesler Air Force Base in Biloxi, Mississippi. He has earned a number of distinguished awards, including the Defense Superior Service Medal, the Legion of Merit, the Meritorious Service Medal, the Air Force Commendation Medal, and the Air Force Achievement Medal, and many others. He is highly decorated. As Lee mentioned, unfortunately, I have a previously scheduled obligation. I won't be able to stay here for the General's remarks. But I really wish that I could stay, and I wanted to stay for your remarks, General, and I apologize for that. But please join me in welcoming to the Department of Justice, Major General Robert LaBruta. Thank you all.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. You doing all right? What a great day. I'm going to tell you, on my way over, I think everybody that is used to Washington, D.C., it's just normal for you. This is my 3rd tour at the Pentagon. And when I was taking a look at the weather last night, I was going, how the heck am I going to get over to the Department of Justice, okay? And just like you had to this morning, I had to figure that out. The Metro worked very well until I got off and had to march over here. But here we are, right, on a wonderful day. I want to say again to Jarrell, thank you so much for that rendition of our national anthem. Let's give it up one more time. Absolutely outstanding in this beautiful hall. And when I saw my battle buddies and my shipmates and my wingmen standing up for each of their songs, You know, when we saw that color guard come down with our colors of this great nation, wasn't that awesome? Let's give them one more round of applause. So here we are. Acting Attorney General Whitaker, I've got to say, you know, I know that he had to leave. I think he's on his way to the White House right now, or at least over to the Senate. It's really remarkable to have this opportunity to be with those that are serving the nation as we are, wearing this uniform. From all of us to you, I want to say thank you for the safety and the security that you provide to all of us as American citizens. It's an amazing institution, never been here before, beautiful building, but more remarkable is the work that you're doing on behalf of the United States of America. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and to the Acting Attorney General and, of course, Assistant Attorney General of Administration Loftus. He and I are kind of like kindred spirits. I think he's my wingman up here. You heard that I've been in the Air Force for a little over 36 years. He's been part of this department for over 36 years. So I think that you've been there, done that, sir. And so once again, on behalf of all of us to you, thanks for your service to our nation. Absolutely outstanding. Then to the other distinguished visitors and guests that are here today, but most important to the Department of Justice workforce. And of course, to the veterans that stood for your actual anthems. I just want to say it's an amazing opportunity for me to be here to represent all of those men and women that are out there right now on the front lines, making the mission happen, whether they're a soldier, sailor, airman, Marine, or Coast Guard member for the United States. This gathering is all about our veterans, our American veterans, the men and women who fought for freedom and through their military service guaranteed our way of life. For over 243 years of independence, these patriots and heroes have stood watch, just like you, for our country. And we should never forget that. From Bunker Hill to Baghdad, their vigilance and determination to uphold the beliefs of which our nation was founded have made us the beneficiaries of those great sacrifices. And through their gallantry, America has truly been blessed with a vast array of possibilities as no other country on this planet. The sacrifices of our armed forces have provided an environment of safety, security, and freedom from which our nation has grown, prospered, and flourished. Whether it's in business or law or human rights, economics, science and technology, the arts, the United States of America is leading the world. And of course, America has long been the beacon of hope and liberty to others around the world, drawing millions to our shores and serving as a model of democracy. Every Veterans Day is important. Every Veterans Day is significant. But this year's commemoration was particularly meaningful. Exactly 100 years ago, this past Sunday, the guns of the Great War fell silent across Europe, and the doughboys started arriving back to their country. It was the 11th day, the 11th hour, the 11th month of 1918, that World War I, the war to end all wars, ended. The aftermath of that horrific war, the first fully mechanized conflict incorporating machine guns, barbed wire, tanks, airplanes, and chemical weapons, gave rise to a better health care system for our veterans. In 1921, Congress combined all World War I veterans programs into one to create the Veterans Bureau. Public health service veterans hospitals were transferred into that new bureau, and an ambitious hospital construction program for World War I vets commenced. By 1924, veterans benefits were broadened to cover disabilities for service-related and non-service-related injuries. In 1928, admission to the national homes was extended to women veterans, National Guard, and militia veterans as well. And finally, in 1930, the Veterans Bureau was elevated to the Veterans Administration, the forerunner of the Department of Veteran Affairs as we know it today, with the mission, the sole mission, to consolidate and coordinate government activities affecting war veterans. All of those initiatives, all of those actions were very fortuitous because, as we know, the guns were not silent for long. The dark shadows of Nazism and fascism soon descended across much of the world, resulting in World War II. Some may argue that it was the most epic of American conflicts. Starting on 7 December 1941, a day that continues to live in infamy, 16 million Americans, men and women, stepped forward to fight against that despotism and led us to victory and a position of world leadership. This is the story of our American veteran. Over the course of our country's short history, every time our nation asked, "Who shall I send?" ordinary men and women across this country stepped forward and said, "Send me." And because they raised the right hand and they took the oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and if necessary, I will give my life for others, those ordinary Americans became extraordinary. In those most difficult times, our nation's wars, these warriors and heroes purchased our independence and our sovereignty with their lives. Even more astounding, through their service and their sacrifice, these patriots helped millions across the world, people they didn't even know, in lands they did not understand, who are under extreme oppression and tyranny, to realize safety and security and freedom. They are our nation's veterans, and they have long persevered. On the wind-swept shores of Normandy, on the frozen ground of Korea, in the sweltering jungles of Vietnam, in the sandy deserts and high mountains of Afghanistan and Iraq, and of course, during all of the turbulent, restless peace years between each of those conflicts. Today, and through that weekend, and I hope every day in between, we should take time to remember and pay tribute to all of them, including the 27,732 members of the Department of Justice who wore the cloth of our nation, who have fought and bled for the security and the freedoms that we hold so dear. We also take time to pay tribute for all of those who were wounded in action and all who gave the ultimate sacrifice for their country. In fact, you may not realize that, but out of 27,732, right now among you, 8,630 Department of Justice members are wounded in action, disabled veterans. They're your teammates, they're your warriors. They have answered our nation's call. Therefore, if you're a veteran, I saw you earlier. I don't care if you're a soldier, sailor, airman, Marine, Coast Guard member, and especially if you're a veteran that is wounded or disabled, please stand up so that we can honor you again right now. Thank you so much for your service. Thank you for everything you've done for our nation and continue to do. We appreciate you. In the words of President Lyndon Johnson, and I quote, "Let men everywhere know that a strong, a confident, and a vigilant America stands ready tonight to seek an honorable peace. But America also stands ready tonight to defend an honored cause, whatever the price, whatever the burden, whatever the sacrifice that duty may require. Therefore, We also need to constantly be reminded of the brave men and women who right now, at this very moment, are at the tip of the spear. They're continuing to stand watch and keep the peace in very dangerous locations around the world. Today's warriors are a battle-hardened, diverse armed forces that leverage the very best of every American volunteer's abilities and forge those differences and those strengths together. That has manifested themselves into becoming the greatest military the world has ever known. These patriots, those serving today, are the veterans of tomorrow. And I don't know about you, but I consider it a sacred duty to not only remember selflessness of all veterans, especially tomorrow's veterans, but we also have to continue to recommit ourselves to make sure that the commitments to them and their families are honored. In closing, I want to once again thank this great institution for inviting me to celebrate with you. Thank every veteran that came today and all that have served before us, and of course those that are on watch today. In the words of President George Bush III, we acknowledge humbly that we can never serve our veterans in quite the same way that they served us. But we can try. We can practice kindness. We can pay it forward. We can volunteer. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, we can serve. That is what Veterans Day asks all of us to think about. And as long as we continue to honor them, our veterans, through our actions, not just words, and we reflect and remember their service and sacrifices on all our behalfs, they will never, ever be forgotten. Thank you very much.
Wow, General LaBruta, those were just fantastic remarks, and I really appreciate you being here with us this afternoon. The General's remarks made me think of the fact that at home right now I'm reading a book. I'm reading a book about Washington at Yorktown and the victory at Yorktown. And when you talk about the greatest military on earth and the sacrifices that the veterans have made over the years, when you read a book like that and you see the hardships and the privations and the sacrifices those folks made back in those days, it's just stunning. But it's stunning also to think that there's a direct line from Washington and his soldiers to all of you in the room who are veterans and the veterans who support us today. So thank you, General, for everything you do. When the General talks about supporting an agency like this, you have to think what it takes to support an outfit like the Defense Department in its size and scope in each of the military branches. It's just staggering, and just wonderful work, General. So we're in the closing moments here of our ceremony, and I do want to thank all of you for coming out this afternoon. I want to thank all of the staff here at the Department of Justice, the members of our workforce who are veterans and who continue to serve the country today. Thank you, all of you, for what you have done, what you are doing now, and if I'm not mistaken, what you will continue to do in the future for the Department of Justice and for this entire nation. It was really nice to have Acting AG Whitaker join us this afternoon despite his schedule, and to have the General come over from the Pentagon and help us this afternoon. And most importantly, thank you to all of you at the Department of Justice who support our vets and support our programs. And thank you for those of you who came out on the slightly rainy, snowy day here in Washington, but there's also folks around the country who are watching this event on the Justice Television Network. So I know there are people around the country who have joined us through television, and thank you all from wherever you are for joining us via the TV today. It counts for a lot, and I really appreciate your support for our veterans and for the country. So thank you everybody for coming out, and one more time for our veterans. Thanks, everyone.